being a large landowner, back in the 1950s, the district started to lease for oil and gas development. Not many people know this. Have anybody been to Atwood Lake? You two guys get out a lot. That's good. At Atwood Lake, right now, there's 47 wells. 47. There's people that have lived there their whole life that can probably name 3, or have recreated there almost their entire life and have named 3 that they know for sure where they are. Now, of course, these are Clinton sandstone wells, which is the bread and butter, if you will, of Ohio's oil and gas industry, as you have probably all educated yourselves on. There's 75,000 Clinton sandstone wells operating in Ohio, roughly, give or take. And so the district created a lease unique to its mission, which is conservation and recreation. And in 2008, the staff at that time, primarily one person, who's been there for 36 years, who understands all the lay of the land. The forester, the second employee that is part of the conservation group at the MWCD, is 20 years he's been there, and he's the forester. So the combination of those two, and plus my experiences, I think we make a very good team to have in mind as to what it is that we are protecting, and at the same time responsibly developing the mineral deposits that were laid there hundreds of millions of years ago within the Utica. So in 2008, they started to monitor the activities in Pennsylvania and West Virginia with an eye that perhaps this might come west. And in the summer of 2010, exploration and production oil and gas companies, E&P companies, started to visit the district and say, we are interested in potentially leasing. And in June of last year, in the meantime, let me back up. So when those visits started to come, the district put together the conservation staff, both of them, and the senior management team at the district, assembled an outside special counsel, legal counsel, and a petroleum engineer who was familiar with horizontal drilling, plus the district legal counsel. And as I mentioned, the 35-year employee and the 20-year employee. And putting together what we have been told is one of the strongest, most protective leases in Ohio right now. And I know that you may not share the pride that we take in that, but I think it's important that you know that we do have pride and that it is one of the best leases in the state of Ohio from what we have been told. Our outside legal counsel who deals with this, he calls it the gold standard. I gave a copy to Mr. Miller, and I can give another copy to Bill. It says Exhibit A. The way the industry does the leasing is that they stick with their standard lease, and then any overrides is always an Exhibit A. So you're welcome to that.
Thank you.
Many other local governments have, not many, I should say many, but just since I've been there, there's been about 4 local governments, including ODNR, in the first part of 2011, had requested a copy of this lease to have an idea of how to make it protective. I use the word protective for shorthand of protecting humans and protecting the environment and natural resources. How to have a protected lease, but a viable lease. And so it's about a 13-page appendix, if you will, to a standard oil and gas lease that has some pretty unique features. One of the features is any water well within, drinking water well within 3,280 feet must be tested before each well, not when the well pad goes in, but when each well is drilled, and then 60 days after the completion or at any time that there's a complaint. They must do, in other words, pre, during, and post-testing. 3,280 feet. And I'm drawing a blank on what the current Ohio law is. Is it 2,000 or 1,000? I forget what it is.
It varies quite a bit. I mean, there's some...
Well, the code sections has a particular minimum, bare minimum.
Yes. 1,000 possibly.
I think it's 1,000. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's no less than 1,000, I believe. This is 3,280 feet. Because we are a neighbor, maybe we're a neighbor to some of you at Pleasant Hill or Charles Mill. And so we are responsible stewards, even though there is a lease for the Utica that was signed in June of last year at Clendenning Reservoir in Harrison County with Gulfport Energy, and that's what this lease here is about. And so there's other unique systems in there, such as no surface impoundments of any frack water or brine water. And actually they must use a closed loop system. That's not closed recycling, but what that does is it puts us one step closer to being able to have closed loop recycling of frack water. The well pad is being constructed now, I do believe, if not pretty soon. It's actually going to be located on either the Steubenville Council of Boy Scouts of America, a youth camp at Clendenning, or the Stark County YMCA. The district has a long history, probably, I'm guessing right now, I'm still learning all the stats about the district. I'm guessing that almost 24 youth camps and church camps and Boy Scouts and such, and YMCAs in different locations on its reservoirs throughout the area. And so that's why those are often right next, adjacent to, or even within the district-owned land. And just so you know also, when the land was being acquired for the reservoirs, they would buy the whole farm. Instead of splitting it up and in essence cutting someone's small business income in half, they'd buy the whole farm. That is I think, a more respectful way of acquiring land for public purposes. If you look at a new highway, count the number of fields that may be cut. I mean, I learned as a proponent of expanding Route 30 that there's trade-offs that you have at any time you increase your footprint. And so with a highway, if you cut a field and if you don't have an over and under, a bridge, then you increase that farmer's cost, and nowadays with the price of diesel, you increase their cost to produce their land. And so those are all kind of the conservation ethic that those of us that are helping to make these decisions at Muskingum Watershed Conservancy District that we have. We are conservationists first. And I know that you may disagree with us on that because we have signed a lease, and we will probably be signing another lease this year for the development of the Utica. But we feel that the protections are there that are not in anywhere else. So that's kind of the history of oil and gas production. Last year, when you take out the typical amount is about $200,000 to $300,000 of royalty payments from 277 wells. The district receives payment right now from 277 Clinton sandstone wells. About 120 of those wells are actually on and even within recreational land that is operated just like a state park or a state forest within MWCD land. So 277 Clinton sandstone wells produce royalty payments of anywhere between $250,000 to $300,000 a year. The total budget's about $10 million. There's I haven't memorized the number of staff, but there's less than 200 staff, because there's thousands of campsites that are provided as well. I mean, there's a real strong recreational group. They have their own rangers. In some ways, it's like a smaller version of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources in terms of parks, wildlife, forestry, lakes, and dams. So there's, I mean, I don't know if many people realize, I mean, you guys do over here, but Mohegan State Park is and forest surrounds district-owned land at Pleasant Hill Lake. So as Eric knows, in terms of connecting trails, that there's often a combination of efforts to provide outdoor recreational opportunities other publicly owned land, and sometimes even private land, such as the equestrian trail that Ohio Horsemen's Ohio Horsemen's Council has been working on for many years. So there is no regulatory authority at MWCD. There is an effort to help everybody keep in mind that from downtown Akron to downtown Marietta, we're all in this together. And the district has a proven track record of responsibly developing minerals and timber and providing recreational opportunities and drinking supply at 2 of its existing lakes for that purpose. We are also contemplating and figuring out a way to supply water to the E&P industry, oil and gas industry. And while that may also be offensive, if the largest bodies of water do not supply water, it probably will come from inappropriate bodies of water that will impact all of us in negative ways. So we have to balance a responsibility that way as well. But as I have shared with the industry that has visited us to purchase water, there's at least 3 companies for every reservoir that has shown an interest to purchase water. And that is that they need to leave a far better legacy than what the previous mineral extraction industry left in eastern Ohio, and that is the coal industry. So what we are looking to do is to leverage through our sale of water and leasing of land to help change the practices and improve and work with those in the industry that want to have a better footprint to do so. Whether it's through the leasing for production of the Utica in terms of recycling of frack water and other best practices that are included in the lease, or in the supply of water. I look at it in short-term and long-term in the supply of water debate. Short-term for the hydraulic fracturing that does not impact negatively the aquatic life or recreational opportunities, because tourism is a big industry around the lakes and provides employment opportunities that otherwise would not be there had the district not been formed 79 years ago. And the long term is that there be permanent infrastructure that can then be converted to public ownership, not by the district, but by, say, regional water and sewer districts, to supply drinking water in areas that have never had public drinking water before. So it's a matter of leveraging the assets that are held for public use to have even a greater public use once the production has gone away. We see that as being a responsible steward for a water supply that's never been developed, except for a small amount, about 1 million gallons a day at Tappan Reservoir for the village of Caddis in Harrison County, or the Atwood Regional Water Sewer District at Atwood in Carroll County. So those are kind of the parameters of and very transparently of where we've come from, where we are, and where we hope to go. I know I'm not here to try to convince you, but if I can leave here with you feeling just a little bit more comfortable that there are responsible
Republicans?